Bridget Greenlee, and I'm the CTA Board Secretary. We want to welcome everyone this evening to our 2026 public hearing for our budget for next year. Our budget was released online and in print on October 13th. And this evening's forum is for the purposes of you making your voice heard and us listening. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to speak. We do have a number who pre-registered. We have some who will be calling in and who we will allow to speak via phone. We do have, for those who are in need, our sign language interpreters who are on the screens. And we also have Marlene Garcia, our Spanish language interpreter, for anyone who is in need. At this point, I'm going to turn the microphone over to the chairman of the board, Mr. Lester Barclay.
Thank you, Ms. Greenlee. Good evening. I'm Lester Barclay, chairman of the Chicago Transit Board. Welcome and thank you for participating in our annual public hearing on the CTA's proposed budget. I would like to introduce those in attendance today, both in person and remotely. Seated with me is Vice Chair Bernard Jakes, Director Rosa Ortiz, Director Nima Jah, Acting President Nora Learson, and General Counsel Kent Ray. We anticipate that Director Michael Eady will join us online. We will now begin the public hearing. Before we open the hearing up to hear from the public, we will first have remarks from Acting President Nora Learson, followed by a presentation on the proposed budget for 2026. Nora?
Good evening, Chairman Barclay, directors, and members of the public who have joined us today. This is a historic moment for our agency on many fronts, and I'm so glad to be with you all to hear about your experience and perspective about CTA and what we provide. We are engaging with our riders more than ever at CTA. This hearing is the latest development in our commitment to engaging with the public and the communities we serve in new and deepening ways. This year, for the first time at CTA, we held 3 budget town halls throughout the city, which were attended by over 400 people. Over 6,000 people have completed our virtual budget survey. Leading up to this effort, we held 18 never-before-held events called CTA Chats throughout the system to connect with riders and hear about their experience. As a part of those events, we connected with over 2,000 riders in person and collected comments from over 1,000 others. This response has been tremendous. And throughout my time in Springfield, meeting with legislators over several months, I have placed that feedback front and center as we advocated for funding for transit. We know that riders value service reliability and frequency, safety and cleanliness, and our actions and investments should be a direct response to what we hear from you. All of this feedback helped to inform a complex budget season for us, one in which we created 3 budgets to prepare for several potential legislative outcomes. We are incredibly grateful that with the passage of transit legislation in Springfield last week, CTA will receive a transformational level of funding. And this means we can now plan for just one outcome, one in which we grow and thrive. As I have been repeating over the past several days, there will be no service cuts. There will be no layoffs. And in fact, CTA will grow. We are in a strong state to receive this investment, with service delivery at the highest level it has been in years. And we are ready to implement our plans to continue to improve service reliability and the customer experience overall. In closing, know that your voice is critical to guiding us through this time. So I'm incredibly grateful to you that you joined us here today to share your thoughts. CTA's executive team is grateful as well, and they are all in the room with us today, taking notes and listening in. Each and every one of you will receive a follow-up on your commentary using the contact information you provided. Thank you for being here. We are here to serve you. It is a privilege and you are our partners in taking CTA to new heights. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Learson. The passage of the the Transit Funding Bill marks a truly historic turning point for CTA and for our region. For decades, our agency has operated within an inadequate funding framework, one that did not fully recognize the level of service we provide or the vital role we play in connecting communities and supporting economic growth. This new funding framework finally corrects that, giving us the financial stability to sustain our workforce, strengthen operations, and continue improving service our riders rely on every day. I want to congratulate you and the entire team for the tireless efforts in getting this across the finish line. It's a remarkable achievement that will have a lasting impact on our riders, our employees, and the region we serve. There are a lot of changes that come with this bill. So as we continue to analyze the details of the bill, I look forward to receiving regular updates and working collaboratively with staff and stakeholders to ensure its successful implementation. Together, we'll ensure this historic opportunity translates into tangible benefits for the public we serve. Now I'd like to open the floor to my colleagues for comments and questions.
Well, I'll echo the sentiments of our chairman. Congratulations to you and the team. Yes. Oh, okay.
Thank you, they're gonna say.
No problem. The same echoing the sentiments of our chair, to acting president Nora and the team. You stayed the course, and it is a joy to know that we, as a team, did not have to deal with service cuts, nor do we have to deal with employees being laid off. We do know, however, that there are some things that still need to be done. So we're not ignoring those things. Right now, we're going to celebrate the win that Springfield has done what they need to do so that we can continue doing what we need to do. Again, I have to reiterate that it's not that we're going to ignore other things. There are a lot of other things that we have been talking about all year for the past couple of years. But for this moment, congratulations on what you've done.
Good evening, everyone. Also want to echo congratulations to you, Nora, for your leadership, to everyone on the CTA team, for everyone's leadership here, both advocacy teams and groups who have also been very helpful in terms of making sure that CTA continues to grow. And the funding was very much a note of faith in the work that we've all been doing collectively. And thank you to each of you for being here, for caring about the CTA, and I'm excited to continue to grow. Thank you.
My apologies to the board and to you. This is a public meeting, and we are required under the Open Meetings Act to broadcast this meeting live. We have been informed that there is something going on that is not correct with our audio and that the public cannot hear. We're working to correct the situation. As soon as it is corrected, we will be able to resume.
Buenas tardes. ¿Hay alguien que necesite los servicios de interpretación en español? Good afternoon. Is there anyone that needs interpretation, translation services?
Thank you.
Thanks everybody for being here today. Congratulations to the team. All I would say is I'm looking forward to seeing the presentation from Tom and sharing that with you all. And we'll be listening. So if there's anything we need to take back, that's why we're here. Thank you.
We are going to first, we are going to read into the record those written comments that we have received. Actually, what we're going to first do is call up our first public comment speaker. We're gonna allow Tom. We're going to allow our CFO to come and make this presentation.
Kathy Georgette. Members of the board, Chairman, Acting President Learson, thank you. The local wealth presentation gets pulled up here so everybody can see it. Okay, so I'm Tom McCone, Chief Financial Officer for Chicago Transit Authority, and what I'd like to do is give you an overview of the operating budget and the proposed 5-year capital improvement program. Can you advance to that side? Okay, so the headline, as you all know, is that the budget crisis is over. There will be no layoffs and no service cuts contained in this budget. We went into an unprecedented year not knowing the levels of public funding that would be available to us, and so we had to approach this budget season in a very different manner, and we are very glad to be where we're at fiscally, and the fact that we will not have to adopt a budget that includes layoffs and surplus cuts. So how do we get here? A little bit of more detailed overview in terms of where we're at in our budget calendar. So first of all, as Acting President Learson mentioned, this is an unprecedented year in the fact that we actually had a level of outreach that we don't typically do in advance of releasing the budget because of the multiple different scenarios that we were facing. So we made efforts starting this summer to listen to riders and constituents, beginning with our CTA Chats program at our various rail stations and bus terminals. And then we held budget town halls throughout the month of September to take input from riders and constituents as well, along with having a joint session of our ADA and Citizens Advisory Board meeting, all in advance of releasing the budgets on October 13th. On October 13th, we actually released multiple budget scenarios based on the input that we heard from those constituents and riders, and some of the uncertainty that we were facing with the levels of public funding was to be available to us. Less than a week ago, that transit funding legislation passed. We are here today having the required public hearing in advance of the board considering the budget that we're going to bring forward. Tomorrow, the RTA board meeting, again, it's something that doesn't typically happen, is meeting to update the public funding marks and reflect the minimum levels of funding that are necessary to avoid the fiscal cliff that we were facing. On November 10th, we'll have a required presentation at the Cook County board meeting. And then on November 12th, the CTA board is going to meet to review and to vote on our budget. That budget is then due to the RTA on November 15th. We will be making a presentation to the RTA about our budget on the 20th, and they will consider our budget as part of the larger regional budget in December, and taking action to approve that budget before the start of our fiscal year. Recognizing the multiple scenarios that we were facing this year, we released a budget that contained 3 different operating budgets. The first was the baseline operating budget that reflected service levels without additional investments, but maintaining the service that we had in 2025 and moving forward. That budget revealed a structural gap of approximately $451 million that was lowered with one-time sources, primarily our reserves, to $112 million. Those one-time sources went away in 2027, and that gap rose to $482 million. We also released a growth budget, which outlined the investments that can be achieved with funding levels that would really put us at our peer average and create those additional investments that really the system here deserves. And then we released the reduced budget. This detailed the levels of service cuts and staff reductions that would be necessary to close the fiscal deficits in 26 and 27. This actually was funding at the level that was approved by the RTA marks in August. And so we had to release that reduced budget because there was no additional funding available to us at that time. And so we have those three multiple scenarios that please reflecting the different scenarios. This slide summarizes what we heard as part of the CTA chats and the budget town halls. As was mentioned, we had an unprecedented level of engagement, both through the online survey, the attendance at the CTA chats, and then the riders that were engaged at our town halls. The riders highlighted the criticality of the system, the essentiality of the service that we provide, and along with the looking forward to future investments in safety, cleanliness, additional service, and additional service frequency. Now, with the funding bill that was adopted just last week on Friday, we are looking for those revenues to address the fiscal cliff that we were facing. So we faced a fiscal gap, as I mentioned before, of $112 million in 2026 and $482 million in 2027. The legislation that was passed creates two new sources of operating funding for public transit in the region. The funding that we'll see in 2026 represents a partial year of those collections. And so the amounts that we will see in 2026 are lower than the annual amounts that we would anticipate moving beyond 2026. The two sources are the state gas tax revenues. The region is going to receive 85% of that allocation. This is projected to be to the region $365 million in 2026, and then in the range of $730 to $750 million thereafter to the region. In addition, the RTA sales tax increase, that sales tax increase of 0.25%, is projected to bring in close to $200 million in 2026, and then an additional $520 to $530 million annually beyond 2026. So for funding for 2026, the final funding levels for all the service boards, incorporating all these different funding levels, is still being determined. However, minimally, we are anticipating the funding that is going to address the fiscal cliff that we are facing. In addition, the transit legislation created a new capital source of funding for the region. This is the interest that is being earned on the transportation fund. 90% of this is going to the region for mass transit investment. That total amount is estimated to be about $180 million annually for the next 3 years. That allocation is expected later in 2026 to be incorporated into the capital budget. In addition, the transit funding legislation that passed eliminated the existing formula allocations for the existing funding sources beginning in 2027 and replaces that with an allocation based on service metrics. And as I mentioned before, the funding minimally addresses the projected regional fiscal cliff and provides additional funding for investing in our system. And as cannot be said often enough, right, this funding prevents any service cuts or related layoffs. So what's in the operating budget? The initial budget that we have, and this is the baseline budget that was released, is a level of investment that's $2.23 billion on our operating budget. The capital improvement program is unchanged from what was released on October 13th. That's at a level of $6.5 billion or $6.75 billion over the 5-year period. Ridership under the initial steady state scenario is projected to increase another 1.3% above our 2025 forecast. And again, our reserve funds are going to be exhausted mid-year, and those reserve funds are going to be then replaced by that additional funding that is coming through to the region to help address that budget gap remaining in 2026 and beyond. Highlights of the budget, of course, there are no service cuts. There's actually increased service. We're recognizing the full year of investments in that initial phase of the frequent bus network and the improvements in rail frequency that have been created this year, along with additional investments in service reliability and service delivery to maximize the benefit of those increased frequencies. In addition, we're introducing free fares for all ADA certified customers. This is part of the RTA's Paratransit Action Plan that was passed in August. Previously, we had a mix of both free fares and reduced fares for ADA certified customers. We're looking forward to additional investments focused on the 4 pillars of people, places, performance, and partnerships. In addition, we're capturing savings and through additional efficiencies that are outlined in our budget book and such as lower fuel expense and some of the lower rates we're seeing for diesel fuel and for some of our projections on electricity. The growth budget that we are anticipating moving towards outlines the following additional investments. These are, of course, a part of our budget book as well. Additional bus and rail frequency and reliability improvements, slow zone mitigation, so additional slow zone mitigation on our rail system, additional cleaning cycles for both vehicles and stations, a focus on equitable transit-oriented development, expanding our community-based partnerships along with our accessibility initiatives, and then investing more in safety and security initiatives. On the ridership side of things, I just want to highlight some of what we're seeing in our 2025 forecast. So CTA is consistently providing over 1 million rides on weekdays. That's a threshold that we now consistently meet throughout the week. October has been a particularly strong month for us. It's been the strongest ridership month since the onset of the pandemic. So we're continuing to see that really robust recovery from a ridership perspective. You can see here Thursday, October 9th was again setting a new high water mark for ridership, the highest ridership day since the onset of the pandemic, with 1.17 million rides. The week of October 18th was the strongest ridership week since the pandemic. So we're continuing to set those high water benchmarks with improvement in our ridership performance. Therefore, we're looking forward to continuing to invest in the system and continuing to grow those ridership benchmarks. Rail ridership is where we're seeing a lot of that robust growth. So we're seeing 10% year-over-year ridership growth. Rail ridership is continuing to see a recovery similar to what we had seen in previous years on the bus side. Bus overall has been flat relative to last year, but with the exception of the frequent bus network, which is seeing stronger growth. Moving from operating to capital, I'm going to summarize the capital program here. As I mentioned, the capital program hasn't changed since we released the budget on October 13th. The size of the program, $6.75 billion, given our various funding sources over the next 5 years that we're projecting. Again, this doesn't incorporate that additional capital funding that is a part of the transit legislation that was passed. We'd anticipate bringing that forward in a capital amendment at some point next year. Our funding sources, primarily the federal formula funds, state motor fuel tax coming in slightly under $1 billion, ICE funding in future years, the transit TIF, which is identified to provide local funding for the Red Line Extension project, and then the federal discretionary programs, the most significant of which is that capital investment grant that we have for the Red Line Extension. The amount here reflects the amount over the next 5 years as part of that $2 billion in federal funding that we're putting forward for the Red Line Extension, and then the additional local funding to support that project. Major projects you'll find in the capital program listed below. In addition to the Red Line Extension, we have our All Stations Accessibility Program, the continued electrification of the bus system, the modernization of the bus and rail fleet, along with additional investments in our vehicles, facilities, and technology. That concludes my overview. Look forward to speaking more with the board next Wednesday.
Thank you, Tom. We are going to read into the record the public comments that were sent by mail. Fred Wittenberg on October 18th, Brian Zaid on October 31st, Cassandra Rayan, November 1st, Loyal CTA Rider, email Claire to you too, November 2nd, Daniel Gentle, October 29th, Sarah Fiorito, November 4th, Susan Adams, November 5th, Tiffany Meyer, November 5th, Elevated Chicago, signed by Emily Bloom, Carlin, Jackie Grimshaw, and Juan Sebastian Arias, November 5th, Brian Zaid, November 3rd, Brian Zaid, November 4th. The written comments that of the individuals whose names I just read or organizations have all been provided to the members of the board for them to respond as they see fit. We will now move on to our public comment speakers. And our very first speaker for this evening will be George Blakemore. Mr. Blakemore, please come to the podium. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you.
artificial intelligence. When one rides public transportation, it's dangerous. You could be raped, you could be killed. I'm suggesting that you have, that in the ghetto, black community, a lot of times, they got a little thing they call boots on the ground. You need people. One conductor is not enough. Having them in prime time with the little dogs is not enough. You got to have people actually on the train and on the bus and subway to protect us. It used to be that they had several conductors, but people don't feel safe public transportation. Public safety is the number one issue, and you're not bringing that up. Public safety. They have rape and killing and smoking drugs. It's just terrible. And killing. And last time I spoke, they said we have artificial intelligence. Well, it's not working. These cameras are not working. You need boots on the ground. You need people to be riding these buses and trains. Public safety is the number one priority, and that's what we're supposed to be focusing on. And also this new man that's an interim. We don't need an interim. We need somebody right now to work. The head of CHA or CTA or whatever. These interims is not working. So again, it's very, very important to have a man, Mr. Blakemore caliber, to come to these meetings. It's outrageous what's going on these trains. It's terrible. And you know why? Because you all are not emphasizing public safety. People have to feel safe when they ride the bus and on the subway. This is why it's very important for me to come up and emphasize it. This artificial intelligence is not working. It's not working. So again, I'm waiting for my 3 minutes to be up. I want you to say beep, 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 beep. Your 3 minutes is up, Mr. Blakemore. Some of this stuff that you all do down here should be up. Up. Public safety. And thank you. And all of you have a peaceful and a blessed day. What do you say, Cousin? Thank you.
That's time. Our next public speaker is Jessica Jackson. Good evening, you have 3 minutes.
Good evening. Well, my issue pretty much is the same as Mr. Blakemore's, and that is the issue of public safety and the fact that CTA, just like the other agencies and entities of the city of Chicago, was allowed to go all the way to the dirt, was allowed to just go under the ground with no concern of making the trains and the buses better. You all allowed it to become somewhere where homeless could sleep and live. Now, all of a sudden, just like with everything else with Chicago, all of a sudden, with this influx of illegal immigrants, now you feel like you want to do something about it. Like how the schools have just gone down to nothing. But now all of a sudden, because illegal immigrants, you want some money in schools. Just like the neighborhoods on the south side and west side of Chicago, you all let it go all the way down to the ground. Now because of illegal immigrants. Now you're talking about all this affordable housing. So whatever money that y'all got from Springfield, it's probably not gonna actually go to the betterment of the trains. It's gonna go to illegal immigrants. You all are sitting here talking about billions of dollars or whatever that you're gonna spend for this train. I don't even understand it, because the city is over $1 billion in debt because of illegal immigrants. And so now you're gonna get money from Springfield all of a sudden, and what, the deficit of the city just went away because CTA is not part of the city. You know, it's like, it's just an insult to working people. It's an insult to the citizens that you all think that we don't know any better, and that the people who actually pay taxes, those that are not getting SNAP, EBT, vouchers, Section 8, you know, people who actually work. We already know it's gonna cost more. Taxes are gonna go up more. More money out of our pockets while we sit back and watch illegal immigrants get everything free. We'll be paying more on the buses and trains, while the illegal immigrants will have some type of special pass that they won't have to pay. And then they put the Black people in charge to make it look like, you know, you all are doing something that's equal and that's for Black people and for the city, when we know that it's not. Okay, I'm finishing up my time because I'm a citizen,
And that's
so I know I'm out of time.
Thank you. All right, I'm a second place. I'm glad you're here.
Our next public speaker will be Olalekan Akala, who is joining us via phone. Akala, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Your time to speak begins now. You have 3 minutes.
You won't have to pay.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Olalekan Akala, and today I want to share a frustration I have with the way we view transportation in our society. Transportation, and especially public transportation, is a service and utility that we as a society come together to provide because A, we can produce better results together than we could apart, and B, providing this service will at least return more to us than we put in. For whatever reason, the link between the value and organization like the CTA should, and despite all its challenges, does provide for Chicago, and the funding we require to sustain its operations is an unwieldy labyrinth that allows us to entertain the frankly ridiculous notion of a fiscal cliff in the first place. The value is there, people. It's there in the businesses we can support due to our structurally lower transportation costs. It's there in the people and activities we can reach and enjoy. It's there in the very fabric of the city, its buildings, its streets, that would otherwise be impossible if we had to satisfy our transportation needs in other less efficient ways. So let's tap into all that value. I appreciate the work done by the legislature in passing SB 2111 to at least prevent us from venturing into an absurd world of service cuts. But we've again opted for a convoluted link between the value public transportation creates and the funding needed to do so. On a surface level, I mean, there are so many reasons why, as a state, Illinois would want to reduce its VMT and its fuel consumption and adopt more sustainable modes of transportation. But now we have a direct link between, an unnecessary link between those goals and increasing public transportation that would otherwise accomplish those goals. So, I mean, I just want to ask our CTA leadership and elected officials, please treat this funding bill as the stopgap in an impossibly ridiculous situation that it is, and work towards a vision and solutions that actually sustainably fund and at least the operations of our beloved CTA. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next public comment is Joseph Mueller. Our next public comment is Ariel Johnson. Good evening, you have 3 minutes.
I would just ask that the smoking problem on the CTA be addressed because there's been documentation with the chatbot of like 14,000 incidents, but the incidents are much higher than what's reported by us. And I think that although that's good in terms of documenting when it happens, I think the incidence of antisocial behavior has increased markedly since 2020 and since the pandemic. And not much has been done in terms of correcting that behavior. And there are studies showing that swift, certain, and fair corrections of those things markedly reduce those things. So if we actually enforce the laws that we have on the books in terms of fines and in terms of removing people when they do smoke, then that would markedly reduce that and restore social order, at least to what it was before the pandemic. Because the fact that there's a difference between before pandemic and post-pandemic behavior shows that it's correctable because it's largely the same population who lives here or after. So I ask that that be something that's focused on. And then also something related to the pandemic. I don't think that the traditional like weekday ridership is really coming back due to the fact that like hybrid work relationships are roughly remaining stable. Places like New York benefit from the fact that they've returned back to baseline between 2020 and now, in terms of 98% return back to baseline completely. But Chicago has one of the highest rates of people who work hybrid and people who work from home. And because of that, things such as like weekend ridership and people who are less stable ongoing every week, the value proposition I think has to be higher than just we can take you to work. And so things like increasing fare box recovery in terms of like people skipping the fares, like jumping over the turnstiles, those things should probably be prevented, and offering value propositions to people going to Lollapalooza or going to church or going to things that aren't work, probably things that should consider. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next public speaker is joining us by phone. Garland Armstrong. Garland Armstrong, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. How you doing, Georgette, and everybody at CTA? How you doing?
We are fine, Garland. Garland, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. It's Garland Armstrong, formerly of Elmwood Park in Des Plaines, now living in Des Moines, Iowa. I just want to give kudos to all of y'all from CTA to finally say, way to go about that transit funding bill, because it certainly was a deep concern for me and my wife, and we're both CTA riders because of the draconian cuts that it was going to be happening, but at the last wire. But I want to give kudos to all of y'all because you certainly did give the state lawmakers a taste of what is what, and they've never experienced it for the first time because they've never experienced riding on public transit, but you definitely showed them that what it is all about in the Chicagoland area. So I just wanted to say kudos to all of y'all and making sure that transit is the answer for CTA. And acting Nora, I want to welcome you aboard for CTA. And you're definitely doing you're doing an awesome job making sure that people with technology needs to understand, even though that they're not well prepared, but train them a lot for it. So want to say way to go and thank you for all of it, for everything what you have done. I'll be glad to answer any questions or comments if you have anything to say to me.
Thank you very much, Garland. Great hearing from you.
All right, and I'll be back in the Chicagoland area in April. As you know, you heard about the passing of my mother. Georgette spread it around to them so that I'll give you the date what it's going to be. So it's going to be so emotional for me, and since I don't have any parents anymore. So just want to say to all of y'all, thank you.
You're in our prayers, Garland. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next public speaker is Jorge Flores. Our next public speaker is Sam Weiss. Our next public speaker is Lucas Mahoney. Our next public speaker is Christopher Ramos.
Good afternoon. My name is Chris Ramos, and I am a community organizer with Access Living, speaking for a community that has had to fight for every inch of dignity that's ever been given. Unfortunately, I don't come here to praise this agency. I am here to share our experiences. In just the past few months, 5 of our leaders have been injured riding your system. 5 people, 5 stories of pain and silence. One of them, a power chair user, was thrown forward when the train made a sudden stop. The conductor was told what happened, but rather than stop and call for help, he just kept right on going. Another leader, an elder, told the bus driver she was stepping off. Before she could even move her walker, that bus pulled away and threw her to the ground, and she hit her head. No one followed up, no call, no care, no accountability. And you can hold all the public hearings you want, but if the same injuries, the same neglect, the same excuses keep repeating, then what's really changing? Our people have gone down to Springfield not once, but time and again. This time to fight for the funding that keeps this very system alive. We've done our part, but now you want to raise fares by another quarter, a quarter out of the pockets of those who can least afford it, out of those who are already paying the price in pain and indignity. Well, if you want to get a quarter out of the disability community, then you better start by holding a higher standard for yourselves. Show us that safety matters more than schedules. Show us that accountability matters more than public relations. Show us that the lives of riders with disabilities count just as much as anyone else's. Because this isn't charity. This is a public service. And until reliability, safety, and accountability rides these buses and trains, our voices will not go quiet.
Thank you. Next public speaker is Thomas Wilkins.
I'm surprised that I actually caught this happened today, but I'm curious, what is happening with the blue line, slow zone kind of redemption mitigation process?
Mr. Wilkins, the board and those who are here to listen to your comment, but not necessarily to engage in a conversation.
Yeah, well, because the comment was, I've timed the ride from the Forest Park stop to downtown. It's about 47 minutes on the train, which is quite a long time. Doesn't really compete very well with, I don't know, taking an Uber maybe for a few more dollars. And I'm just hoping that, this budget is going to include something that's really going to address that, because that's not, you can't compete with, Uber and those kind of things when you take that long of a time. Speaking of that, as a possible revenue generator, I think, throughout the year, I'm just that kind of analytical guy where I've asked about 75 people on the train throughout my that time frame. If this train were to go from Forest Park direct nonstop to Clark and Lake, would you pay $8 for that? And just about everybody has said yes. So I think there's opportunities there where you can, create that kind of a deadhead service, perhaps where you're charging a little bit more money for that service that really can compete with, traffic and things. You're going boom, straight shot back to downtown. I think that could be a winner.
Thank you very much. Our next public speaker is Trevon Jeffries. Is Trevon Jeffries still here? Mr. Chairman, I don't believe that we have anyone else who registered to give a phone. You are more than welcome to come up. I don't have you registered on our list. I'm sorry.
I registered.
Okay.
I did. Good evening, everyone.
Can you please state your name?
Oh, sure.
For the record, thanks.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Teresa Simpson, and it was very important for me to be here today. I've attended several of meetings, over the number of years, because all of my life, I'm 53 years old. I've always rode public transit since I was 4. So it's important to me and the people that I deal with, because I am a mother. I've been I have a disabled adult son who uses paratransit services, and we also sometimes use CTA services. I'm a working mom. I actually live near Devon and Clark, and my employer is in Tinley Park. So let me tell you how my day goes. I'll take it quick. I have an 8 o'clock job that I have to be there for. I leave my house at 4:40 in the morning to make that commute. I use CTA. I use Metra. I use sometimes I walk 1.3 miles if I can, or I have, because there's no bus that would go beyond Tinley and 80th. I have to use Lyft, and those rates really vary. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's cheap, sometimes it's not. But it takes me over 3 hours and 50 minutes in the morning to get to work. 3 hours, 50 minutes sometimes to get home. I say, like, when I heard about the cuts that were going to happen, I panicked, because if I didn't have, because I do pay CT, all the stuff that you're talking about. So if that had happened, I would have probably lost my job. I don't work every day outside the house because I have a disabled son and my job has been kind to me, but I do have to go into the office 1 to 2 times a week. I have to go. So, and my job has already made accommodations for me. So I am thankful that you all at the last minute have come up with a budget that will, help those of us, So like me leaving in the morning, like at 4 something in the morning, that's still night service, right? So I was scared about losing 20, because you guys talk about 24-hour service at one point, that I was having a heart attack. Because they were saying that buses weren't going to start until 6 in the morning. I would have lost my job for sure. So I am grateful today for that thing too. And another thing I want to say too is like I said, my son uses paratransit services, but sometimes we have to use a CTA, and he uses his wheelchair. And this is the truth. If someone could please look into, like, when you have the chairs and you have to use those hooks to go onto the chairs, 99% of the time it does not work. I wound up, the bus driver will come over and help. They can't get it out. So sometimes they might use one little belt to go and have to hold on to him for a trip. So I think that's something that really needs to be looked into. But I think overall, like,
Teresa, that's time.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mary Sullivan.
I apologize for that.
No, it's not your fault, Mary.
They didn't want to send me downstairs. I don't have a fancy pants, so I'm sorry.
That's okay, Mary. You have 3 minutes.
Yeah, okay. Fine. I feel that the fare increases will hurt the disabled, like the last few speakers had said. And I'm happy we got the bill from Springfield passed to avoid those doomsday service scenarios you guys was thinking about. So, thank you much.
You're welcome.
Here you go, Georgie.
We have another public comment that we will make a copy of to give to all of the members of the board. Thank you, Mary.
I hope you can wave my hand like you.
We will do our best, Mary Sullivan. I think we'll be okay. Patrick Hughes.
Good evening. Thank you.
Good evening.
Thank you all for your service. First, I want to make a couple. This is my first time ever coming here, so first, thank you to Deneen downstairs, who made us feel so welcome when I showed up today, and the City Year kids who were here. It was nice, nice touch. I also want to, I'm in Evanston and I'm here to talk about two things. One is the accessibility to our 2 hospital stops. I'd like to talk about the accessibility to all the stops, but I'd like to prioritize accessibility at our two hospital stops in particular. I want to say a thank you also to Sam Smith. I'm a part of the Canal Shores golf course over there, and you as a neighbor have been really good to Canal Shores in the last 4 or 5 years, and just really responsive when there's been issues going on. I just wanted you to know your team has been really, the Purple Line in particular, and Tony Jones and Cassie Collins, both with Amalgamated Transit Union 308, have been incredible. We've gotten to know them, and nice to sort of humanize some of these relationships. But back to the Central Street Station. The Ryan family is committing $850 million for a new stadium, a new football stadium at Ryan Field. There's going to be concerts. It's going to be a lot of activity. I think I don't know the exact numbers, but I think it'll be somewhere in the $500,000 a year of people coming, and a lot of it they reduced their parking, so they're going to be counting on public transportation. The hospital is estimated they have 3,000 employees, and about 500,000 people a year go to the hospital, either as patients or as families visiting. So lots of traffic there, and it's right there at the stop, and it's totally inaccessible. In Canal Shores, they have 26,000 rounds of golf, and it's estimated that 250 of them come in from the city to play golf. So, and if you're carrying a golf bag, you probably don't need an elevator, but it might be nice sometimes. So it's just I don't know how you necessarily prioritize, but I would love to have a meeting with the hospital, the CTA, and either the Ryan family or Northwestern to deal with that. As you know, the Ryan family is a leader in our community on accessibility, and they're making it. Their goal is to make it the most accessible, visitable stadium in the world. And it would be a shame if people couldn't take the CTA to that game. So that's all I've got. And the second thing I just wanted to say is I'm working on getting kids into trades in our community in Evanston, and would love to. I met somebody tonight, but just wanted to put it to you all that we have a lot of cool, young, talented kids in Evanston who are looking to get into trades. Would love to engage you on that. Thank you. Thanks for your service.
Thank you. Sierra, I'm Buck.
Hello.
Good evening. You have 3 minutes.
My name is Sierra Heimbach. I teach in a little village and I live in Uptown. I'm here today because I rely on the CTA every day to get to work. When I moved here, one of the things that drew me here was the vast public transit system. It gave me faith that the city believed or valued accessibility and wanted to keep improving it for everyone that lived here. I wasn't expecting to be directly affected by these proposed budget plans, but after being involved in a car collision, I've been left with no other option. After spending almost a year on buses and trains, I've gotten to know my CTA drivers and they've expressed concerns. They're under a lot of pressure to try and stay on schedule while dealing with delays and riders who simply cannot afford to pay the fare. If fare prices increase by 25 cents, $1, for me it's $10 a month, it will create more stress for drivers, more delays for riders, and more tension at every single stop. Personally, I've had to call my supervisors many times to say, I'll be running late due to these delays. It's embarrassing, it affects my professionalism, and it's simply out of my control. I'm not an expert in city planning or budgeting, but what I have learned from teaching is that we don't leave people stranded who have fewer advantages. We do our best to lift them up and give them the same opportunities as everyone else. My paycheck isn't increasing, but cost of living continues to rise. It may not seem like much is changing, but when everything is changing, it adds up. I'm asking that our city leaders stand up for the everyday people that keep this city running please protect affordable, accessible public transit so that all of us, teachers, students, and workers can continue to get to where we're going. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Chris Ramos. Okay,
Thank you. First time. I wasn't sure if I was registered.
got it.
Thank you, Georgette. Since there are no further speakers, public hearing is now closed. Thanks to all of you for participating this evening. Have a safe